This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up? Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, along with the one, the only, the beautiful Brandon Swanson.
Oh, I certainly am, aren't I? Hey.
You like how I added in the
That was very
there?
nice.
Got to keep you on your toes sometimes, because sometimes you just get used to the same old thing over and over and over.
Yeah.
It becomes a little stagnant, but people are filing in on Twitch. If you're on YouTube, yes, we are live on Twitch. You should go follow us there so you can watch the podcasts live as they go up. And Brandon, today is a special day because I have you back on the PTP, and lately it's when Brandon's on the PTP, Ricky needs somebody to talk about football with, and we are going through my third NFL mock draft. I can't believe we're already at 3. We're pretty much halfway through the process at this point because there's 6 total. My last one is the full mock draft. I think even 7, so we're a little short then. 7, I think, is like my week of kind of emergency one. But how we do it, in case you are new, is we'll run through my picks. We do 3 segments. We do a top 10. We do then 11 through 20, and then we do all the playoff teams, which would be 21 through 32 at the end. Before we get into everything, though, Brandon, I'm going to ask you to click our little Twitch thanks on the scene so that we can thank our patrons. And then if you want to join Patreon, you can go to or become a patron of MVP. You can do that at patreon.com/most valuable podcast. I have to say it again. Tim, your name is getting up there. Sooner rather than later, I will do that and not keep forgetting. But those are our wonderful patrons. We love every single one of them. Demon King is one of them. He's even in Twitch chat himself. But Brandon, let's get to the mock draft, and let's start 1 through 10. I'll run through mine, and then we'll talk about what we have to talk about in this one. And starting off at number 1.
Do you want me to go back to the scene?
Yes, you can.
I thought so. I just wanted to make sure. I was waiting for that.
There was a part of me that's like, okay, should I tell him?
I believed. I mean, I knew it was up there. You didn't say anything. I figured, but I just wanted to make sure because
from now on,
don't want to screw anything up here for you.
From now on, I'm giving you a very important job. You could be the producer on that side of the table.
Oh my gosh!
If you
thanks.
feel like, hey, it's been up enough, let's switch back. Go ahead and do it. I'm not going to be mad at you, big guy.
Sure. I just wanted to make sure. Didn't want to.
Do I give off the vibe that like I would be angry if the littlest thing didn't go right?
No, but I didn't know if that would ruin everything. You know, just the whole thing would self-combust. I didn't know, so I just wanted to ask.
And Demon King already saying, I can't wait for my Eagles to draft a wide receiver instead of a corner. We will get there in a bit as they are lower in the draft. But let's start 1 through 10. You got the Bengals at number 1, Joe Burrow, quarterback, LSU, duh. The Redskins, Chase Young, edge rusher, out of OSU, duh. Then we've got the Lions at 3 going Jeff Okudah, cornerback from Ohio State. Then at number 4, the Giants going Isaiah Simmons, linebacker from Clemson. If you're thinking, Ricky, this sounds mighty familiar. Yes, it is. My first 6 picks did not change, and I kind of hate the draft for this because I usually like a little change from the first, second, and third mocks. But the Dolphins at 5, they stay pat. They go Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback from Alabama. Then the Chargers go Justin Herbert, quarterback from Oregon. And now here is where things get spicy. Panthers at 7 go A.J. Epinesa, the edge rusher from Iowa. Then we got Jedrick. I think it's Jedrick Wills. I'm going to say that wrong. It's Jedrick Wills. Got to slow it down sometimes. Offensive tackle from Alabama going to the Cardinals at 8. The Jaguars at 9 go Derek Brown, defensive tackle from Auburn. And then Tristan Wirfs, the offensive tackle from Iowa, going to the Browns at number 10. So, Brandon, let's go through this. Same thing we did last time. We'll hit every single team in this top 10. Maybe we won't spend as much time on the Bengals that we spent last time, but there was something that I was thinking about of coming into this. I'm like, what do we talk about when it comes to this first overall pick? Because pretty much it's a foregone conclusion that we're expecting the Bengals to draft a Joe Burrows or Joe Burrow. I do the Chicago thing where I add an S onto the end of it. But the thing I wanted to mention with the Bengals is I've got 2 articles here. Number one is from SI.com, their Broncos site. I think it's Mile High Huddle. And they did a rumor mill article where they said Broncos have talked to the Bengals about what it would cost for trading to the number 1 pick. Broncos are right now at the 15th overall pick. So that'd be a 15-1 jump. But if you go down, and you can take the source however you want, it's Dan Celio at dancelioshow.com on Twitter said, Bengals, I have been told, are listening four offers for the first overall picks from these teams. The Chargers, the Dolphins, the Broncos, the Bears, and the Buccaneers. So the thing I wanted to ask you first, maybe this is us speculating, and it's not going to happen because I don't expect it to happen. Should the Bengals, or will the Bengals, end up trading this pick, maybe to one of the teams that we have listed here from Dan Celio?
Should the Bengals? This is an easy one. Absolutely not. I don't think there's any way that the Cincinnati Bengals should be trading away this first overall pick because they do need a quarterback. And that's not to put a knock on Andy Dalton, but it's just, I think his time is coming to an end with Cincinnati. A lot of expectations that he won't even be on the team at the start of the season. And the Bengals, it's time for them to move on. It's time for them to try and go in a different direction with a young kid who is supposed to be, just an outstanding quarterback, even though your boy Colin Cowherd doesn't believe that he's going to be that good.
Yeah, which I disagree with, but...
Which is odd because Ricky literally disagrees with Colin Cowherd never. So I think that it's interesting that you disagree with him here. But
I like Joe Burrows.
But I think that Joe Burrow, he will bring, I think, a new energy to a Bengals franchise that I mentioned last time doesn't have many fans. The fans have certainly had to have been in hiding over the last couple of years because the Bengals have not been good. So that's why if you trade your first overall pick, where everyone looks at you as taking Joe Burrow to kind of start over, get things kick-started again, get some excitement around the team, it's an outlandish idea, and it's just plain silly to do so. Now, will they do it? I don't think so. I don't think they're doing that. Yeah, they want to hear the offers, but I just don't think that anyone's going to have an offer good enough, and it's going to be too rich for teams. You mentioned the Bears. No way. Not going to happen. The Broncos,
the Bears don't even have a first.
No, exactly. That's why it's not going to happen. The Broncos, it doesn't make sense to me because I thought that they were pretty happy with Drew Lock at the end of the season last year. He had some really good games. He played very well. Obviously some things to improve upon, of course, but he seemed like a really good quarterback in the couple of games that we saw of him. You look at the Dolphins, they've got a lot. They've got a lot to be able to give away, but I don't know if they necessarily need to go up to number 1 because they could get a quality quarterback at Tua, which is where a lot of people are projecting him to go. And then the other team that you talk about, who was it?
So we've got the Chargers.
The Chargers. So the Chargers going up to number 1. Again, with them, I'm not sure, as we've all heard, Phillip Rivers and the Chargers are, they have separated. They're going in different directions. Phillip Rivers is going to be a free agent. He's going to play this year, not with L.A. I don't necessarily think that the Chargers, because they're going to pick up somebody in free agency. They're going to sign somebody in free agency.
Charger fans are probably hoping it's Tommy Terrific. Tommy Terrific going to play in L.A., being closer to home, being closer to Giselle, can be playing for the Chargers next year.
So I think that with that being a scenario with knowing that there's other quarterbacks to be able to sign in free agency that can be your starter right away, you don't necessarily need to trade up to the number 1 spot.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, kick the tires, see what it might take. I mean, do what a lot of fantasy football people do. So, what if I did this? Would you give me this guy?
Yeah, and
what if I did this? Would you? So, I think there's probably a lot of that going on.
Like,
I don't know how serious the
how much
talks are.
would it cost? Okay, I know what's on the table.
Exactly.
I know what it would need to get that.
Exactly. That's what you have to assume sometimes when, they're in talks.
Yeah.
Well, what kind of talks? Are they just kind of kicking the tires to be like what you just said?
Yeah.
Or are they like deep in like, okay, we'll set this up, we'll add this guy into it, we'll add this guy into it, we'll add this pick, whatever. I don't think they're there. I don't think it's going to get there.
So I'm going to throw this out. This is from Demon King in the chat. This will also kind of bleed a little bit into the Redskins because when it comes to the Bears, Sports Mockery, I'll be completely honest, I don't really like their website. Only because nothing against Sports Mockery, I've just always seen them as not a legitimate source. So, like, when I see things like Bears now apparently eyeing Redskins number 2 pick with Khalil Mack involved, I look at that and go, all right, give me a name. Give me somebody like Adam Schefter who has said this. And, of course, in their article, they're still saying Dan Celio. And I'm sitting there today, I'm like, first off, I'll say, who the fuck is Dan Celio? But I needed something to talk about with the Bengals here. So that's why I wanted to throw their thing out, and I want to get back to them because there's a different thing from CBS Sports that kind of goes in with them trading it. But Demon King asks, and this also goes in with number 2, just for the Bears really quick. He says, if the Bears traded Khalil Mack and a first, it would have to be a next year's first, for the first overall pick this year, would the Bengals accept? I would say no. I think the Bengals would want more than just a first next year in Khalil Mack. What do you think?
I think that's the dumbest thing that the Chicago Bears could ever do. I won't even speak to that.
Okay. Unless the Bears are, and here's the only other thing, unless they're not trading up to get Joe Burrow, they're trading up to get Chase Young. And hey, we're replacing Khalil Mack with a younger pass rusher, but I don't even think the Bears trade up to the top 5. I don't even think Khalil Mack is on the radar to get traded. Like, why would you trade for him 2 years ago, but then trade him away? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You know
I'm not
what
going to. I'm not even going to entertain that crap.
So what I will say here is this is the other part to the Bengal discussion is I found this through SB Nation's Cincy Jungle, who's their Bengal site, and apparently Jason La Conforta of the CBSSports.com laid out a 3-step plan for the Bengals this offseason. And some of it sounds good, but some of it is kind of like, I don't see them doing that. Number 1, I think everyone and their grandmother sees happening. Trade Andy Dalton. Find somebody who wants Andy Dalton and trade him for peanuts, even if you have to. Step number 2, he has trade for Cam Newton. And the thing that he says is if Mike Brown is stuck in enough to actually tag AJ Green in order to keep him, then go rent Newton for a year. So he's basically saying you're making a trade revolving around AJ Green being sent to the Panthers and Cam Newton being sent to the Bengals. And then on top of that, the third step he says then is trade the first overall pick because he kind of references what the Rams did in the RG3 draft. Hey, trade out of that pick, find a team that wants to get a quarterback because, hey, even if you suck this year and you're the first overall pick next year, Trevor Lawrence is sitting there. And many are saying, and it is a debate, that Trevor Lawrence may be a better quarterback than what you're getting this year in Joe Burrow. But I don't know. If I'm the Bengals, I kind of feel like if you're just going to kick the tires until next year, then why not just keep the pick and take Chase Young? You know what I'm saying? Like, take a pass rusher then, someone who can help your defense, if the goal is to, hey, let's tank for Trevor Lawrence next year.
I think that the scenario of getting Cam Newton is an awful thought. Cam Newton is such... I like him a lot. I think he's a great player. He's been a great player. I think everything good about him. He's not the same. He's not right. His arm is not right. His shoulder is not right. Everyone needs to realize that. No one should be giving him a contract that's a big contract.
Well, they would have to trade for him because he's under one more year.
But it's ridiculous. I don't know why anyone would do that. I mean, I get it. You want to go on what he's done in the past, and you want to believe that he's right. But we saw it. I mean, we saw it this past year. I mean, he was skipping passes. He wasn't right. His shoulder's not there. So I think that when people are putting Cam Newton into going here or going there to be the starter, whether via trade or, well, it would probably have to be via trade, right? But I don't get it. I don't get it. Our team's not seeing what we're seeing. Like, he's not right. His shoulder is not, unless he goes out and he shows everybody he's making crisp passes, getting it there, going deep with the long ball. It's still got similar to what he's had in the past. Then okay, I'll say, all right, he looks good, but I don't think he's there. And that's why I don't like that idea. I really don't like the idea of the Bengals getting rid of the pick at all. Because at this point, Joe Burrow, good quarterback. I understand that you have people thinking, well, if you're bad again next year and you're the first overall pick, then you have Trevor Lawrence. I understand that, but look at what happened to Tua this past year. He didn't expect to get hurt. He didn't expect to get hurt in the way that he got hurt. What if that's Trevor Lawrence and something worse than that? Where, you would, of course, you never are wanting that to happen.
But you never know. Like Tua, if Tua never got injured, Tua's the number one pick. And we're not even having this discussion. Like, if Tua doesn't get injured, what was that, the Mississippi State game that he got injured? Or was that, it wasn't South Carolina. I think it was Mississippi State. If he doesn't get injured in that game, then we are right now just saying, well, they're going to take Tua, moving on. Like, it's not even a discussion. However, there is one team, I will say, just although I would lean more towards not trading the pick, there's one team that I would make a trade with, and that's the Miami Dolphins. And the reason why I say that is if I'm the Bengals, let's say I'm not sold on Joe Burrow, and let's say it's like, you know what, any of these quarterbacks, Tua, Justin, Joe, if I want any of these, like if you're sitting there going, I'll take any of these guys, don't care who I take. If you're sitting at that point near the Bengals, then I make a trade with the Dolphins. The reason why is you trade back to 5. You're still going to be in the situation to get one of those 3. Because I know we're going to talk with the Lions about there's some rumors. You mentioned Colin Cowherd. He mentioned something about how if he's the Lions, he would draft Tua Tagovailoa. We're going to dive into that for the Lions. But even if they draft Tua, you can still get Justin Herbert, who would be a really good quarterback for your team. And there's a possibility then if you trade with the Dolphins, you could get the 18th overall pick that they have from the Steelers. You could possibly get the 26th overall. You could possibly get those 3 first-rounders this year for your first overall. Probably maybe not all 3 because you're only moving down to 5, but you could get one of those picks, plus like a future second, future third. That, if I'm the Bengals, interests me. It's not like oh my God, I got to take that right away, but at least that interests me to where I'm thinking about it a little bit. That's what that does. That's the only team that does that for me.
My question is, though, why delay your rebuild?
If I'm drafting Herbert or Tua, am I delaying my Herbert? I'll say Herbert because Tua's injured. If I'm drafting Justin Herbert at 5, is that delaying my rebuild while getting an extra first overall pick this year?
No, it's not. I completely didn't hear you say that when I heard the other 3 picks that you said. I heard you say the lower ones, and I'm like, why would you delay the rebuild and not be taking a quarterback then? But I guess I just think go with the first. You've got the first overall. Go take it. Make it clean. On this one, it's simple. I think it's very simple.
Let's get into the next pick, though, because, like, for me, Chase Young, I kept it the same. However, there's a little bit of drama in the D.C. area. First off, D.C. Defenders tickets. The D.C. Defenders, who just started this week in the XFL, I believe they sold out, and their tickets are more expensive than Washington Redskin tickets.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Because the Washington Redskins are bad. That's why they're second overall pick. But according to ESPN's John Keim, Quentin Dunbar is looking to sever ties with the Redskins. The veteran quarterback, who I believe his contract, let me pull it up really quick. He is under contract for another 2 years? Yeah, he's under contract for this year. So after this year, he's an unrestricted free agent. That's right. He signed that deal in 2017. The last 2 years, he's been on injured reserve. This is the last year of his deal. The Redskins are two things. The first thing I want to ask you about is them possibly passing on Chase Young. Because I'm looking at this going, Chase Young is the best person in the draft at this point. You're a team that you take the BPA right here, and the Redskins do need a defensive playmaker on that side of the ball. However, because of the Quentin Dunbar stuff, if you're the Redskins, do you think about passing on Chase Young to draft Jeff Okudah, who I have right behind Chase Young, both from Ohio State? But if you're the Redskins, do you take BPA, go with that pass rusher? Or do you say, well, hey, if we're going to have to trade Quentin Dunbar, let's maybe draft the cornerback in Okudah instead of Young?
Well, I don't know. I think that they're with Washington, with the way that they've been, with the kind of that they've kind of been stuck in. They've been stuck in this rut of. I mean, the last time I think that there was excitement around Washington was what was it? It was when they still had Kirk Cousins on the team and they were going to the playoffs, and now that feels forever ago. I'm not sure when that was, but it feels like forever ago. That's the last time I feel like Washington had excitement.
Yeah.
So ever since then, it's just been kind of blah. And if you have an opportunity to take an impact player like Young is and put him on your defense, I think that that's the way to go. Now, understandable, there's going to be other holes to fill, but why not be able to take this guy, an impact player in college, a guy who's going to most likely be an immediate impact player in the NFL, start every single game if healthy, and be able to give your defense some life. You know, you're working on an offense. You have some weapons there. They have faith in Haskins. They have faith in some of the weapons around him. You know, at running back, still a little bit of a question. Is Geis going to, eventually be healthy for a full season? Adrian Peterson's not going to be around forever. Let's get this defense going, and I think with Chase Young, he helps you do that.
Yeah, and the one thing I do want to bring in Twitch chat, two things from Dream Matter. First, on the Redskins that we're talking about now, says Redskins could cut ties with Ryan Kerrigan, draft Young, and have Young and Montez Sweat on each side. That's a nice pass rush. And that's what I'm looking at, is like, you already drafted Montez Sweat, has all the Old Spice commercials, nice young star for you guys on the defensive side. Why not take Chase Young and just beef up that pass rush? Because like I say, there's two positions that are important in football. Getting your quarterback, getting your pass rusher. The two most important things in football. Dream Matter also said, and I want to throw this out because we just finished on the Bengals discussion. He said, why is everyone having doubts about Burrow? Didn't he just shatter like every SEC passing record? I don't know about you, I just want to say from my standpoint, I'm not doubting Burrow. When I said make that trade, or in interest making that trade with the Dolphins, it's because I can still get a quarterback and increase my draft capital. It has nothing to do with doubting Burrow, and I think you're in the same boat. You're not doubting Joe Burrow.
I don't doubt him at all. I do always find it interesting, though, and this is not a knock to the comment, but I do find it interesting. He could throw for 70,000 yards and 900 touchdowns in college and not be able to throw a touchdown in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean
how many quarterbacks have we seen that's like, man, great college quarterback. Like, for example, and I'm not comparing him to this. I know I shouldn't even say it. They're different quarterbacks. But, like, for example, remember Colt Brennan from Hawaii?
Yeah.
Amazing college quarterback. Threw for a ton of yards for Hawaii. Wasn't a highly touted NFL prospect. It all depends on what your makeup is, and it's Joe Burrow has the makeup to me of an NFL quarterback.
He has the makeup. He's a very smart quarterback. He's got the IQ. He's got the swagger, I think. I think he will be a very good quarterback in the NFL, but I don't think there's doubt there. There's always going to be doubt from the scouts. That's their job. They're supposed to, here's this, but here's a potential, doubt with them and a potential negative type of deal. I mean, that's their job, but I don't think there's really, outside of Colin Cowherd, which he was very doubtful of him. I don't think that there's a whole lot more of those types of people out there.
The other thing the Redskins can do, because both you and I are on the same page, that if you're keeping the pick, you're drafting Chase Young, right? You're not, even with the Quentin Dunbar stuff, ignore it. You can get a corner later on. But here's the thing about getting a corner later on. They have other needs. First off, they have other needs. Offensive tackle is a big need for them as well. You just drafted Dwayne Haskins last year. You got to keep him upright. The other thing people are talking about with the Redskin pick is, do they trade it? And the reason why is they have the second overall pick, then they're waiting until the 66th overall pick. They don't have a pick until the third round, and I'm pretty sure that's like late third round. Am I wrong? No, that's early third round. But 66th overall is where they're waiting till. If you're the Redskins, kind of same question we're asking about the Bengals, but a little bit different of, are you going to entertain a trade for someone who maybe wants to jump up to get Chase Young? Maybe a team like the Dolphins who might want to jump up to get a Tua if they think the Lions are going to draft him at 3. Do you entertain a trade if you're the Redskins to try to get more draft capital this year because you don't have your second round pick? That pick is going to Indy. So Indy will make the Redskins' second round pick. Redskins don't have a pick until 66.
Yeah, I think you can certainly entertain it, but I think I've probably sat on this show multiple times in the past and said, draft picks a lot of the time for me, they don't get me all juiced up and excited. Trade some draft picks away, whatever. Yeah. I'm more about what's on the team now. What other players that have already proven themselves can do. Trade them and try and get some more playmakers for your offense or defense right now. That's most likely not going to happen, but. That's where you skip the second round. Oh, whoop-de-doo. I mean, that doesn't bother me, especially when your next pick is early in the third round. I understand where people come from and they want to get a lot of draft picks, but look at how many times Cleveland Browns, wonderful example. Number 1 draft pick so many times, high draft pick so many times.
It's just they never
how
hit
many
on
people
picks
that they have drafted are currently on that team. Not
Whereas you look at the Patriots, how many picks have they made after the third round? It's like, holy shit, that guy's a 5th rounder?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, look at Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Tom.
6th round pick,
Tom Brady is the best example of that.
Am I remembering that?
He was
right?
like 6th or 7th or something like that.
I think he was 5th or 6th. I don't think he was 7th. But hey, that's besides the point.
He was late.
We don't have the Tom Brady historian, Sean Anderson, here on the podcast to let us know exactly what pick number Tom Brady was and what he was feeling at that moment.
But that's also kind of my point, though, is just that you don't have to be a top pick to get a good player. And you don't it's not the worst thing in the world that you miss a round, you get your pick back. If you make a really good pick, you hit on someone really good in the first round, which they would with Chase Young, then you skip your second round pick, and then you just keep going. I mean, I don't look at that as a big, oh boy, well, we better trade this so we can get some more picks and stuff like that. No, that doesn't do it for me.
The only other thing I would throw out is if you're worried about not having a second rounder, Quentin Dunbar's asking for a trade. Trade him for some draft capital. I'm sure that a team would be more than happy to give up a second round pick, another third round pick, maybe even a second and a 5th for Quentin Dunbar. So, I mean, that's another thing, too. It's like, if you're going to trade Quentin Dunbar, because he could ask for a trade, and they could say, well, F you, we're not trading you. But even if you're going to trade him, you can just go ahead and trade him and then try to get some draft capital that way. So I don't think you have to trade the second overall pick to do that. Let's get to the spicy conversation, and that's what Colin Cowherd was saying about because sometimes I feel like Colin just says stuff to stir the pot a little bit. It was kind of like you and I, we were having a little bit of a political conversation before the podcast. And I said something about a Trump tweet that I didn't like. And you said, well, Ricky, his main point is to stir the pot. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to get a reaction. It's not that he's right. He's not trying to be right. He just wants to stir the pot and get people agitated. Sometimes I think that's Colin Cowherd. Hey, let me go out on this ledge, get people talking about me, because if they're talking about me, they're talking about my show. My show gets put in this article, that article. It's a very, I'll say it's a very smart business strategy to get your show out there. But what he said on his show, that if he's the Lions, he would draft Tua Tagovailoa with the 3rd overall pick and try to shop Matthew Stafford for something else. Because he was saying like, ooh, getting a cornerback like Jeff Okudah at 3, ooh, that's a real strong draft pick. That's a sexy draft pick. Where I'm sitting there going, hey, Jeff Okudah's not bad. Like, if they drafted him at 3rd, I think Lions fans would be pretty fucking happy about that. With how Swiss cheese their secondary has been since before I can remember. Basically, I don't even remember the last time. It's usually like, yeah, well, our secondary sucks, but at least we have Darius Slay out there. Like, that has been Lions fans for the last couple of years. What's your thought process on the Lions should draft Tua at 3?
My thought process would be, why would you be getting rid of Matt Stafford? Mm-hmm. To the point made by Colin Cowherd, shop Matt Stafford. Why? When Matt Stafford's healthy, he's a good quarterback. Mm-hmm. He's a really good quarterback.
And people are going to say that's the caveat, when healthy. Like, how injury-riddled has Matt Stafford been?
He doesn't miss a lot of games. Mm-hmm. This past year is one of the first years where I feel like he actually missed a decent amount of games in a while because he literally had fractures in his back where if he continued to play, not only would football be in jeopardy, but other things would be very much in jeopardy.
Brandon, I'm going to fact check you. You are right. The last time before this season that Matt Stafford didn't play 16 games, his sophomore season when he only played 3. I believe that wasn't the season where he...
Is that like 2009 or something?
Yeah, 2010.
2010.
That wasn't the season where he shattered his shoulder.
I think it might have been.
And then it was one of mine and Dave's favorite clips where he's out there like, I can throw it. Let me throw it. Let me go out there and throw it. And he just hurdles it. And since he was mic'd up, you just hear, ah! And he's like, oh my God, it hurts. Like, he gave it all in that game. I think that was the same season, was it not?
I can't remember exactly, but...
I'm going to look it up.
But again, to my point, Matt Stafford, every single season, you hear, oh, Matt Stafford, he took a hit. Oh, he did this. He is one of the toughest competitors, especially at the quarterback position. The guy gets knocked down religiously because his offensive line is bad, and he continues to get up, go out there, and play at a high level.
It was week 11 of his rookie year, so it was the year before.
Was it against Cleveland?
Yep. At Detroit. Week 11 of his rookie year in 2009.
I think he ended up having a huge game that game, too.
Yeah.
But ultimately, why get rid of him? Why trade him? That guy, if everything in his back heals, which I have heard it is, why are you getting rid of him? He is not your issue. He is not. You don't need another quarterback. You're paying him a ton of money. At one point, I think for maybe one day, he was the highest paid quarterback in the league, and then the next day someone else was.
Yeah.
But Matt Stafford is a good quarterback. There'd be a lot of people who would want him. Hell, the Bears would want him. So your Vikings might too, depending on the day.
We got one more year.
But ultimately, I think it's a silly move to get rid of Matt Stafford, or maybe not a silly move to draft a quarterback, but not right now. Not at number 3 overall in the first round. I don't like that. I don't agree with it in the slightest, actually. You keep Matt Stafford. You go with what you need to help out. One, that would be your offensive line. If you don't go with Jeff Okudah, you're going with an offensive lineman because somebody's got to help the boys out.
Yep.
I mean, because someone has got to be there to be block Your job is to block, and they don't do it.
And that's like NFL.com for their team needs article. This is what they have written down for the Lions. Trade down, collect picks, patch up a horrendous defense. Seems like a fine strategy for a D that functioned as a turnstile for much of 2019. Then again, is anything more important for this team's success than keeping Matthew Stafford upright? Like, that's a big need also. The only thing I'm going to throw out there with the whole quarterback thing for the Lions is with Matthew Stafford, there is in his contract a potential out after this season. So the whole thing I would think about, and it's not wow, Matthew Stafford sucks, get rid of him. It's on the mindset of, where's this team's timeline? If you feel you can draft a Jeff Okudah, you can make draft picks to help this team win now, then obviously you keep Matthew Stafford. But it depends on what the Lions think. If the Lions are thinking in 2 years, 3 years, we're not going to, we got to kind of hit the rebuild button, then yes, maybe drafting a quarterback now wouldn't be a terrible idea. I know Trevor Lawrence is there, and we're going to mention him all fucking year until we get to draft day, that Trevor Lawrence is in next year's draft, until we fall in love with another quarterback.
Yep,
remember, Baker Mayfield came out of nowhere. Joe Burrow came out of nowhere. Not really out of nowhere. People knew who they were.
I thought he came out of LSU.
But Ohio State. Nobody thought that Joe Burrow or Baker Mayfield would have been the first overall pick at the beginning of their respective college season. So we don't even know how next year's football season is going to pan out, which you already hit on.
And I want to say, talking about your point with Matt Stafford, he has an out after this year. So I think Matt Patricia has basically also been kind of given I don't know when his contract is done, but he's, I think, kind of been given a scenario of you got to win now. You've had a couple of seasons. Yeah. We really haven't, we were we're going to get some progress. And then all of a sudden this past year, you go 3-13-1 or whatever it was. It was bad. And not 3-13-1 would not be correct, but it was bad. And 3-12-1. And I think Matt Patricia is on a short leash, I do believe, in Detroit. And if he does not have a good year this year, of course it's based off of the team.
This is his third year, right?
I believe this would be his third year. But if he does not have a good year this year, if the Lions don't have a good year, if Matt Stafford doesn't have a good year, whatever it might be, they might just cut ties with everybody after this year. However, if the year goes well, they make improvements, they end up, let's see, 7, 8, 9 wins, somewhere in that category, then they're moving forward. They move forward with Stafford. They move forward with Matt Patricia. There's no need, but you give it one more year. Stafford has one more year on his contract until there's a potential out. You see what happens. If you have another, 3 to 5, win season, then okay, Matt, we're going to let you go. Both ways. Patricia, we're going to let you go as well. We're going to get a new coach. We're going to bring in a new staff. We'll bring in a new quarterback. We'll start over. But I think you give it another year for sure. I don't think there's any need to go get a quarterback right now. You have, again, with a healthy Matt Stafford, you are in a very good place offensively to win. He has the weapons. You got a good tight end and T.J. Hawkinson. I like that. I loved that addition. But again, like you had mentioned in that article, they have to keep Matt Stafford upright. You do that with a solid offensive line, and you have to have a good defense. I remember week 1, the Lions played the Cardinals. It was the Lions' game to lose. What'd they do? They tied because they let the Cardinals come back into that game in a game where Kyler Murray did not look good at all. And they let him come back and tie the game. Part of it was also because Matt Stafford's offense couldn't get into the end zone again. But they should have never been in that position. It should have been a win for the Lions. And I think that's a perfect example. Yes, the defense has to improve if they're going to be better in 2020.
And just hitting some Twitch chat things right now, Demon King agrees with you. Shouldn't trade Matthew Stafford. However, Demon King did say if the Lions drafted Tua, the Colts should try to trade for Matthew Stafford. I don't disagree with that because we're gonna talk about the Colts later. I want to hit them, but I feel sorry for them because I know Todd McShay was gracious in his mock draft and gifted the Colts Justin Herbert. I don't think Herbert falls that far. If the Colts want Justin Herbert, they're going to have to move up for him. Also, Demon King says this is Matt Patricia's last year if he doesn't get 8 wins. So thinking he's going to get fired. And then Dream Matter said he's on the Lions trading down bandwagon where he says they could get a chest full of picks from Miami and fill out their roster. No one at 3 is going to get the Lions into the playoffs by themselves. So just some thoughts for the Lions. Obviously, Lion fans, let us know what you guys think. Because when we get to Miami, that's going to be a big thing, is their draft capital in whole. But with the Giants, it's pretty much the same thing as the Redskins without the drama.
Drafting a new team.
Well, here's the 3 choices the Giants have in my mind at 5. They can either do what I have them doing and take the best edge rusher that's there in Isaiah Simmons, linebacker out of Clemson. They could either take the best offensive tackle, which in my mind right now is it's probably Wills from Alabama, but you could also say that Wirfs from Iowa is intriguing because he can play right tackle, he can play left tackle, he can either slide in to the guard position. So his versatility might be appeasing to NFL teams. Or there's the big one people are talking about, trading down. I feel like a lot of these are like, oh, trade down to beef up your team. And in an article from SNY.TV, New York TV network out there on the East Coast, they have an article talking about 4 scenarios that the Giants could trade back. More importantly, they have 4 potential trade partners. I want to get your thought and Twitch's thought on these partners. Number 1's Miami. I'll just say this. Miami's going to be in everything. We're going to talk about them and how they could potentially trade because they've got the draft capital to do so later in this round. Then you also have the Los Angeles Chargers. They could be looking to move up, especially if they feel like there's going to be a market for Justin Herbert, if they feel like another team like the Colts or the Bucks or just somebody is going to trade up to try to get Justin Herbert. They could also say, hey, you know what, we got to trade up to make this move, moving up from even 6 to 5, which would only be 1 pick. And then the other 2 would be the Carolina Panthers, who they need defensive pieces like crazy, and Isaiah Simmons would be a really good piece for that team to have. And then the Buccaneers, who are in dire need of a pass rusher, and it could be the difference of drafting a guy like Cassian from LSU, Clavian Cassian, or drafting Isaiah Simmons from Clemson. Like, that could be where they're looking. Like, oh, trade up and get Simmons, be fine with like a Cassian or a Gross Matus from LSU or Penn State. If you were the Giants, what are you doing? Are you going defense and going Simmons? Do you agree with me? Are you going offensive tackle? Because there was a reason why Daniel Jones fumbled the ball a lot, and that's because he was always pressured by opposing defenses. Or are you saying, let's trade back, let's try to get more than just 1 pick here at 5?
Well, I think you're putting, while their offensive line is bad, Daniel Jones also needs to be more careful with the football.
Yeah, it's not all on the offensive line.
It wasn't all on the offensive line because some of it, Daniel Jones, it's like, really, dude? Like, hold on to the ball.
Yeah.
But if I'm the Giants here, I'm probably trading back. I didn't down. I believe.
I didn't think
is what it's supposed to say. But
I didn't think you were going to say that because of how anti-trade you were with the Redskins.
Yeah, because I'm sorry, Isaiah Simmons is not Chase Young.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think in this one for the Giants, since there's really, there's some playmaking, difference-making, playmaking guys out there. In this one, I think you trade down. Maybe you try and get a couple more picks. For them, I feel like that makes more sense. On this one, I'll be honest with you. Kind of lukewarm on this one. Like, don't care.
Well, to me, it really depends on what are the Giants going to weigh on. If you're weighing on edge rush, just stay where you're at because you're not going to get a better pass rusher later on than Isaiah Simmons. The interesting thing is if they want to beef up their offensive line because to me, they're in a territory where they could go ahead and take Wills, but I've got Wills as the 8th overall pick, so really that's not too big of a reach. Tristan Wirfs would be a little bit of a reach. That's 10 going up all the way to 5. However, if you, let's say, they draft like the other teams that they mentioned, like the Buccaneers, the what's the team right above the Bucs that they mentioned? The Panthers. So with Miami, not really that much of a difference. With the Chargers, not that much of a difference. You're only moving back 1-2 picks. But the Panthers, you're moving closer to like, okay, at 7, taking an offensive tackle doesn't seem like a reach. And we're getting more draft capital than just that one pick. But even if they traded back to 14 with the Buccaneers, there are offensive tackles in this draft that are rising up draft boards. You've got guys like Josh Jones from Houston, who everyone is just gushing over this kid's Senior Bowl that he had, especially his second day of practices where he was just mowing guys down that were trying to rush in on his quarterback and on his offense. You've also guys got like Mekhi Becton from Louisville, who's rising up draft boards, where in my first 2 mock drafts, you would be like, Becton who? Who is this guy from Louisville?
I'm still asking that.
Guys like Lucas Niang, not related, I believe. I believe he's not related to George's Niang from the Iowa State Cyclones, former Iowa State Cyclone, basketball star. But Lucas Niang, offensive tackle from TCU, another guy who's rising with all these. So it's like, and even Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas is falling. So really you can find somebody, even if you trade back with the Buccaneers. I think that's what the Giants need to look at. If you want pass rusher, just stick pat where you are. If you want O-line, get the hell back. Trade back, get some draft capital, push that all in. The Dolphins is kind of on the other side. Do you feel like Tua will be there at 5 for the Dolphins? That's to me the biggest question. Will Tua be there for the Dolphins, and do the Dolphins even want Tua?
I do feel like Tua will be there for the Dolphins because I think that you wouldn't be going out on a limb to say that the first 2 picks of Joe Burrow and Chase Young are pretty much set in stone.
If neither of those teams trade out, yes, those are the locks, I would say. No other picks are going.
At 3, the Lions, you're not sure who they would draft. We're not sure. We have an idea of what we think that they should do.
Yeah.
The Giants, they're not going quarterback. And then it's the Dolphins. So the Dolphins are really, I think, for the most part, going to have their pick between, do you want to go Tua? Do you want to go Herbert? Who's this Love guy that's rising up people's boards that they like? Jordan Love?
So
he's
Jordan Love is rising up boards, but from what I hear, the Colts are really falling in love with him. They were really scouting him at the Senior Bowl. Yep.
With Love?
Yep, falling in love with Love.
So, sorry, I just saw that. I had to do it. But obviously,
usually I catch the pun before
he's probably not in the same group as these guys, but you still have your picks that you could, go through and be like, okay, here's you kind of have the pick of the litter here.
Yeah.
I think most likely they would go with Tua. Tua's already said that he would be happy to be, a Miami Dolphin publicly. Privately, he may be going, what in the heck is going on here?
Yeah.
But I think that most likely the Dolphins are probably going to be drafting Tua. I don't think there's any reason why Miami needs to trade up. Personally, I don't think they need to.
Well, okay, to me, it's kind of a double-sided coin here. And that might be the wrong phrase I'm looking for. Maybe double-sided sword is what I'm looking for. Because the Dolphins right now have 3 picks in the first, 2 picks in the second, that gives them 5 total. A third-round pick, that's 6. 2 fifths, that's 8 picks. 2 6-rounders, that's 10 picks. And a 7th rounder. They have 11 picks in this year's draft. They can either do 2 things with that. Usually teams with 11 picks in one draft do one of 2 things, Brandon. They make all those picks, and they're a team like the Dolphins, and they're like, we're just going to hit our spot and get 11 good guys for this team. Or they take those picks and they say, fuck it, we got to move up. We're going to move up. We're going to get key guys. We're going to target guys that we really want, move up. And I don't care if we're only getting 4 guys, 5 guys. We're going to get the best guys that we can, not just 11 bodies to fill up this roster. And for me, if I'm the Dolphins, the only way I am trading up is if, and the team I'm trading up with is the Redskins. That's the team I'm looking at. Because the thing I would want to do if I am the Dolphins is one of their biggest needs. It's edge rusher. And I'll spoil now since we're talking about the Dolphins here, and we're not going to talk about them later. With the 18th pick, I have the Dolphins going with Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle, which, let's be honest, you could get that in the second round if you need to. And at 25, I have them going with that edge rusher, which if they trade up to 2, they're going to go ahead and get an edge rusher anyways, because I'm trading up for Chase Young. That's the guy, I think, if the Dolphins trade up, that's who I trade up for. And with the draft capital that I have, what I'm thinking about would be a fair price, and maybe Twitch chat, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but because they've got so many picks, maybe 2 of their firsts and a third, or 2 of their firsts and a fifth, I would say 2 firsts and a fifth might be good. 2 firsts and a third would be just as fine as well, because then the Redskins could go, it doesn't matter if we don't have a second. We're getting another first-round pick. And you can move up, get Chase Young, still keep one of your 3 picks that you already have to then draft an offensive tackle later on. To draft, and the quarterback then I would go with is then you're either in the second or third round saying, okay, we're going to draft a Jake Fromm. We're going to draft a Jalen Hurts. Because to me, the big question with Miami is, and the combine next week is going to show this. Interviews are going to happen. Some guys are going to throw. And the question I'll ask you is, if you were a Dolphins fan, put your mindset into one of a Dolphins fan, Brandon. Would you rather the team draft Tua Tagovailoa, who will probably have to sit this whole year, and we don't even know how okay, scratch that. Might not have to sit the whole year, depends on how he's doing in spring, because I think it's right around the draft he'll be starting to throw. But really, it's like he's starting to throw then. How ready is he going to be by the beginning of the season? Odds are you sit him his entire rookie year to get right. Or do you just say, fuck it, like, we're just going to trade up for Chase Young. We'll pay that price. And then I'll get like a Jalen Hurts or a Jake Fromm later, even if they don't play this year. It's the same thing I would get from Tua, and those 2 guys aren't injured. And I'm getting an edge rusher like Chase Young to impact this team.
My first question to you is, how much longer can Miami go with Ryan Fitzpatrick? How much longer do they want to go with Ryan Fitzpatrick?
I would say if I'm a Dolphin fan, I would be fine with 1 more year.
So I don't mind him. Yeah. And I'm not saying this because I mind him. I think he needs to go.
Josh Rosen?
He sucks. He sucks. Well, I mean, why are we still talking about him?
I just know that you don't like Josh Rosen. That's why. Or you think he sucks.
He's not good. We've seen it. Everyone should think it. We have seen it with our own 2 eyes. Mm-hmm. Not good. Not good.
And Dream Matter says if Tua's health checks out, he doesn't drop outside top 3. So that, again, like, we won't know, though, at the combine what his health is if he's not going to be throwing until draft time, basically.
But again, I do not believe there's any I don't believe that there's any chance that the Bengals are giving up their pick. I don't believe that the Washington Redskins would give up their pick. And I don't believe that the Lions are drafting a quarterback.
Yeah.
So he's outside the top 3 in my book. I understand where most likely they're coming from, but I don't see those top 3 teams, especially the top 2. I don't see them trading those picks away.
And when he says drop out of the top 3, I'm assuming Dream Matters also feels like, hey, a team like the Chargers, a team like the Colts may put an offer together to trade with the Lions, trade with the Redskins. So it doesn't have to be those 3 teams. Also, our boy Pat, shout out to Pat Hill, says, Brandon, you leave my boy Josh Rosen alone.
Oh,
so Pat coming at you with
Pat,
Josh
I wouldn't associate with him. I wouldn't associate with him. I mean, he might be a very fun guy outside of football, but inside of football, I wouldn't want him throwing me the ball because I know he wouldn't get it to me.
But back to the original thought of, do you think that it would be bad if the Dolphins said, like, we're going to say we're getting off the Tua train, fuck the Tua train, and we're going to try to trade up with the Redskins, give up 2 firsts and a third to jump up to 2, get Chase Young, and then with either one of our seconds or our other third, we'll go after Jake Fromm or Jalen Hurts, whoever's there. Or even if let's say they fall in love with Jacob Eason. I personally don't like Eason as much as I like Fromm or Hurts. But what if they do that? Like, hey, we don't need to take a quarterback right here if we can trade up for a dynamic player like Chase Young and get a quarterback later on.
You'd have a dynamic player with Tua, though. I know.
Do we know that for sure because of the injury?
Do we know it for sure with full health from anybody?
I mean, if Tua's fully healthy, then yes, there's no doubt I'm not taking him.
But do you know it with Jalen Hurts? I like Jalen Hurts a lot, but do you know it with Jalen Hurts? Do you know it with Fromm? Do you know it with Eason? Do you know fully they are going to be?
I will say this. You don't know it from Eason. We don't know it from Fromm. Jalen Hurts, maybe it's because he's got my heart already when it comes to this draft process. I think he's going to be something special.
He's a special player.
He is somebody that I said this on Superfans, and I'll say it here because now there's more of a spotlight here on this mock draft. Jalen Hurts has the potential to have the same storyline as Russell Wilson. I said it. I'm not going to say that he's going to be as great as Russell Wilson because he's got to live up to that, but I feel like the storyline is going to be there. The quarterback who transferred schools, got drafted in the 3rd round, went to a team that, let's say he goes to a team that's not really that good and then turns them into what the Seahawks are today. And I know the defense helped a lot with that, but Russell Wilson has been a really good quarterback for them. I feel like Jalen Hurts can have that similar storyline. The quarterback who transferred schools, got drafted in the 3rd round, and then became a really quality starter for the team that drafted him in round number 3. That's what I feel like. Like, Jalen Hurts is the guy that if the Dolphins fall in love with him and like him, then I would trade up for Chase Young and just take Hurts later on.
I just don't. I feel like if Tua is healthy, you go and you get him, and you take him and you start rebuilding the team now. I mean, the Dolphins, I feel like they're another one. When's the last time that they were good? When's the
70s?
When's the last time that when they drafted a player when people went, wow, that's really exciting?
What, the 70s they went undefeated. The 80s, 90s they had. In most of the 80s, I would say they had Dan Marino, but Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl. That was the last powerhouse Dolphins teams, right? I can't remember in my life. I know there were years where the Dolphins, the Dolphins made the playoffs, but the Dolphins weren't anything special in my 30 years of life so far. But yeah, I just think it's interesting to see what they're going to do should they trade up because they've got 11 whole picks in this draft. But let's move on to a team that I know you want to talk about because you mentioned them to me in our texts earlier, and that's the LA Chargers. Phillip Rivers out of town. Before we get into what they should do, the main question is going to be quarterback. Should they get one in free agency or should they get one through the draft? Not this. I know I was watching NFL Network today and they asked the question of are they more likely to get one in free agency and the draft. And the first guy they asked was like, well, I think they do both. And the second guy's like, you're the king at not answering the question. The question is more likely. And I'm going to say free agency. And he kind of went out on a little bit of a limb. It was fun to watch him kind of say that, though. Like, you're the king of that. And I was like, that's usually me. I usually don't answer questions when people ask me. But before we talk about them possibly getting a quarterback in free agency or the draft, Phillip Rivers, what are your thoughts about him not being a Charger anymore? He's officially not going to come back to L.A.
Truthfully, I think it feels really weird because not seeing Phillip Rivers play for the Chargers, come out in the powder blue uniform, I think it's weird. It almost makes me sad. Like, it's weird that it makes me sad, but it does.
It is iconic, though, that both him and Eli are walking away from their teams at the same time.
Well, Eli walking away from football.
Yeah, but still, like, they were traded for each other, and now they're both walking away from their original team after the same
But that's
season.
also good to see, though, because it means that
nobody won the trade.
You'd like to think that they both they had some success and they stayed in the league for a long time. And Eli, obviously, 2 Super Bowls, and I really feel for Phil, not able to get there. But it's I was gonna say not for lack of trying, though. I mean, the guy really tried to do as much as he could, and he really tried to put the team on his back, I think, to a point where he was doing too much. And I think that's what we saw this past year, where he's starting to throw interceptions. I don't think it's because he's losing a step. I think it's because he was just trying to do too much because the team was bad. I mean, it was bad this year.
Phillip Rivers, was he one of my fantasy? I believe he was one of my fantasy quarterbacks this year.
He was.
In our league. It was him and Sam Darnold. But one of the things I always thought about Phillip Rivers with the Chargers was there were times where it's like they would lose games and I'd be like, can't pin that on Phil.
Exactly.
Like, it's not Phil's fault. Or it's like, oh, he threw that interception because he had to. He had to make that Brett Favre type throw because the defense let him down and let someone score. Yeah. And then he's in a hole and he's got to push the issue or press the issue, I should say. But it's going to be fun to see where he goes. I've been pushing on Superfans for him to be signed by the Bears, although Dave and Sean aren't really behind that one. But with the Chargers, I have them going with Justin Herbert. I think if he's there, they're going to go ahead and draft him. No way they don't. If you're the Chargers, yes, Tom Brady is on their radar. Let's push Tom Brady to the side. Of course, if you take Tom Brady, you might say, we don't have to draft a quarterback at 6. But if you're the Chargers, let's say Tom Brady goes back to New England, are you looking for a free agent quarterback or even like a Cam Newton quarterback that you might have to trade for? Or are you looking for, you know what, we're going to start all over with the quarterback and we're drafting a guy here at number 6?
Well, I would first of all go for free agency. That's where I'm looking first.
Because this team's more win now than...
Well, the way that they're built, yes, they are. But I'm also interested to see what they do at the running back position. What's going to happen with Melvin Gordon? Is he going to still be a Charger come next season?
Austin Eckler, is he still going to be a Charger next year?
Exactly. But I feel like you can't get rid of both of them. I feel like you've got to move forward with one over the other. And to be honest with you, I don't think Melvin Gordon's going to be there starting next year. I think Eckler will be, but I don't think Gordon will. I think they saw that they could go with Eckler as their guy.
It's okay. They'll just draft Wisconsin running back Jonathan Taylor and just let the Wisconsin running back pipeline run through L.A.
That'd be fun. But I think that there's going to be some different things you're seeing with the LA Chargers, come this next year. Obviously, a new quarterback. Hunter Henry, he may not be. So, you look at these.
He wants that money, dollar bill. As Dame Lillard's in the NBA, he wants that plenty money.
You look at these different scenarios that are playing out with the Chargers. You now lose Phillip Rivers. You know for sure he's not coming back. I think Melvin Gordon is probably going to be somewhere else. Hunter Henry very well could be somewhere else. You still have Keenan Allen. You still have Mike Williams and, guys like that. But when you're looking from an offensive standpoint, you're like, oh, okay. Where's the direction? Where's the next direction that we go in? Because 2 years ago, Chargers look like a team that was going to be vying for the number 1 spot in the West.
Yeah.
And now it looks like it could possibly be Kansas City for the next 10 years. Possibly Oakland if they're able to get some of their stuff together. They, went on some runs this year where they look like, wow, they really are coming together nicely. The Denver Broncos had some games that they play where they're like, wow, maybe the Denver is trending in the right direction. But most of LA's games, they were trending in the wrong direction. And it's not because of Phillip Rivers. But you look at free agency and you look at who they could go for. So yes, you could go for Cam Newton. Of course, like you said, you could go for Tom Brady. You go for Teddy Bridgewater.
Which
you could try and...
Which our Saints insider, Jake Neverman, says there's a really good chance Bridgewater is not back in New Orleans next year.
And it sounds like there could also be a chance that Taysom Hill is not back in New Orleans next year either.
Oh, no. What will Sean Payton do?
What do you think is the likelihood that Taysom Hill could go somewhere and be a starter?
0.
0?
I think he should stay in New Orleans. Like, that's a perfect fit for him. Especially if Drew Brees comes back. He doesn't need to be the starter. He can be the everyday man. He is what we thought Pat White would be in the Wildcat. But Taysom Hill's not just a Wildcat quarterback, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like Pat White, from not our Pat Hill, from Illinois, but Pat White from West Virginia. Kind of like what the Dolphins wanted to do with him, where it's like he comes in, he's the Wildcat quarterback. That's pretty much what Taysom Hill is, where it's like, come out, special circumstances. Hey, we're lining Drew Brees up at wide receiver now, and Taysom Hill's at quarterback. Like, it gives them some funky plays, but like I don't think he's a starter.
I've seen some scenarios where Jameis Winston ends up with the Chargers.
I would stay away from that with a 10-foot pole, but that's just my humble opinion. Also, Demon King disagrees with you about the Chargers running back situation. He says that the Chargers are going to keep Melvin Gordon and that Eckler will walk because Gordon will be cheaper.
Gordon sucked ass this year.
That's why he could be cheaper.
But I want the good one.
Yeah.
I want the good one.
But it depends on how much they're willing to pay up for like an Eckler.
Nah. They'll pay Eckler. I think that Gordon really burnt his bridge this past year when he was being a little sissy and sitting out trying to get more money. He ain't getting it.
My question would be, if I gave you 2 scenarios, would you rather pay for Eckler and lose Hunter Henry, or get Gordon for cheaper and keep Hunter Henry? I think that could be a big possibility. Like, the possibility of, like, okay, which running back is going to be cheaper so that we can go pay Hunter Henry so he's not walking?
I think Eckler's still going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
I think
it's just whichever one you think is cheaper.
I think Eckler's going to be cheaper because I think that Melvin Gordon is going to demand more. He's going to want more after he didn't get it at last year. Then he holds out, gets nothing, comes back, plays, and then ends up. I think they're gonna be done with that.
Dream Matter says Melvin tried to pull a Le'Veon but failed miserably.
Oh, horribly.
Which is true.
Horribly. And Le'Veon now, I know we're going off the rails here.
No, go ahead.
Really quickly, Le'Veon, not gonna be a Jet.
You don't think so? He gets
not gonna
traded?
be a Jet. He going somewhere else.
Like you're saying, he'd have to get traded, right? He wouldn't have to.
Oh yeah, he's getting traded.
Because we're on the running back train, I want to ask you this because you're a Bear fan. Do you think the Bears should re-sign Jordan Howard? Because that's going around in the stratosphere.
No, I don't. I don't. I think that
I was like, why would they?
I think that David Montgomery's doing a fine job. I think
Demon King, but Le'Veon failed on the field. So right there, Melvin Gordon failed at being Le'Veon, but Le'Veon failed on the field this year, which I know because I traded him.
But also, Adam Gase doesn't like him. And he's not in a system, I don't think, that where Adam Gase is going to use him to his full potential like he was in Pittsburgh. He probably should just go back to Pittsburgh. Yeah. But I don't know if he didn't burn his bridges like AB, who I hope is getting mental health treatment right now. And I mean that in a completely honest way because he's got some issues. But I think Le'Veon could go back to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh right now in a dismal spot. But Big Ben, he comes back healthy, they'll be okay. But going way off the rails, we can bring it back in now. No, we can bring it back in now.
With me, the whole thing I think with the Chargers is it all depends on will they get Tom Brady. Do you think they'll get Tom? Do you think Tom Brady leaves New England and is not in a Patriot uniform? That's like the big question that I feel like everyone's got the same mindset of like, I'll believe it when I see it.
It's really hard for me to grasp the fact that Tom Brady could no longer be part of the Chargers organization.
Part of the Patriots.
The Patriots. But I don't think I'm going to have to do that because I think he is going to be part of the Patriots.
Yeah.
I don't think he goes anywhere. I think that they do enough in the offseason. And with him, it's not about the money. I think it's about, I want to win. Yeah. He is a competitor. He wants to win.
Is it about playing close to his family, which is located in California?
I don't
playing in a Las Vegas or in LA, which would be closer to them.
I don't know. I haven't talked to him recently or ever.
You gotta text him tonight. Let me know what he says.
But I think that if the Patriots do their job the right way by convincing him to stay, they go out, they make some moves on offense, they try and get some more weapons, they try and add some more receivers. I mean, if you look at Dallas, if they're not able to, or they don't bring back Amari Cooper, if I'm the Patriots, I'm saying, Tom, we will go out and try and get Amari Cooper, give you another weapon to try and be able to go with and throw it to, so it's not just Julian Edelman and a bunch of these rookies who can't play. I want to be able to help you out. But they have to convince him. If they can't convince him, he's not staying.
Yeah, I just feel like two things. If they get Tom Brady, this is the Chargers. If they get Tom Brady, I wouldn't draft a quarterback then. I would say, I've got Tom Brady. I'll worry about drafting a quarterback next year. Can I get an offensive tackle to help Tom Brady? Because they could use that. But if I don't get Tom Brady and Herbert's there at 6, I just draft Herbert.
Yeah.
And I know many people are saying, oh, Chargers are going to do kind of what the Bears are going to do. Get a free agent, draft a quarterback, let him compete. If I'm drafting Justin Herbert at 6, he's got the job. Like, I'm not drafting a guy in the top 10 to say, you get to sit a year behind Mike Glennon, or you get to sit a year behind Marcus Mariota, or even worse, you get to sit a year behind Jameis Turnover Winston over here. Everyone, make sure you got the turnovers in stock. That's Jameis Winston's favorite snack.
Ricky,
right behind crab legs.
He only turned the ball over 30 times.
Yeah, that ain't good. Not good.
Only 30. He did a good job.
It was
ask him. He did a really good job.
His season ended on a pick 6. It was fitting that his season ended on a pick 6.
And again, the best part is that you don't have the self-awareness to be able to go, you know what? Wasn't my best season. No, instead, I feel like I played pretty good. Well, no one else did, Jameis.
I feel like I played pretty good. Oh, I can't stand him. So, next team, Panthers, I want to get into. This one's kind of juicy because, they've got several needs over the defensive side of the ball. Last mock draft, I had them go Derek Brown. This time, I have them go A.J. Epinesa. I want to ask you about one thing. And it comes down to their free agent, Gerald McCoy. So Gerald McCoy had some comments that he told Jordan Rodriguez of The Athletic, where he said, there aren't a lot of Cam Newtons walking around. In fact, there are no Cam Newtons walking around. This is his kind of talk about the speculation that the Panthers could cut Cam Newton. Then there's David Tepper, who is the Panthers general, is he the general manager or the owner? Owner David Tepper had this to say about, this was via Steve Reed of the Associated Press. When Newton said he will absolutely be in Carolina this year, this is what Tepper said. Listen, I'm not a doctor. I've said it a million times. Is he healthy? He's not a doctor. There's a lot of different things that can happen. But first is he healthy? Tell me that, and then we can talk. In your mind, do you think that, because for me, I'm either taking Derek Brown or A.J. Epinesa here, but it all depends on, is Gerald McCoy a Panther or is he not? Gerald McCoy, I believe, has a club option, which many people are going to say, well, It doesn't matter if the team wants him around. He's going to be here. But the thing I will ask you, Brandon, is what do you expect the Panthers to do with Cam Newton, and does it affect the locker room? Like a Gerald McCoy, who obviously does not feel too happy about the Panthers potentially cutting. Oh, no. So Dontari Poe has the player op. Gerald McCoy does not. So if Gerald McCoy gets unhappy and leaves this offseason, goes to, let's say, the Houston Texans, do you see that happening based on how they handle the Cam Newton situation? Could it cost them a veteran like Gerald McCoy?
I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily make my decision based on what you do with Cam Newton. I think that'd be silly.
Like money and stuff.
Well, it's more about, do you think that you can win? Mm-hmm. I would want to see what plays out. What kind of team is this shaping up to be? And then if I don't feel like this is going to be a team that can win, then I'm probably going to go elsewhere to a team where I think that they can win. Because if the Panthers do get rid of Cam Newton, I think it would probably be in their best interest to do so. Yeah. Not because he's not been good in the past, not because he's not a good guy.
Or not because Kyle Allen or Will Grier have been leaps and bounds better.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Allen, there were, first 4 weeks we're like, whoa, wow, this guy is amazing. And then we're like, can we delete the comments that we had?
I mean, to quote Trump, it's like he did what rockets do. They go down. Because that was an interesting quote that I heard this week that I was like, yes, rockets, they go down. They don't go up. Oh, man. Some of the things that he says makes me laugh. Brandon.
The rockets, they go, I don't know where they go, actually, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because I don't know if I've said this before, but I'm the best at everything. So
back to the Panthers.
Yes, how did we get off the topic? But I think that I'm not making a decision. If I'm McCoy, I'm not making a decision until after I see how the team shapes up. I'm not going to do it one way or another, but I think the Panthers do have to get rid of Cam Newton. I think that they have to kind of then look at the market. What do we got? All that type of stuff. And then, go from there. But we're going to see a different Panther team.
Yeah.
We're going to see a different Panther team this year.
Because my thought process was they have several different players on the defensive side of the ball that are up this year. To name a few, Dontari Poe, Gerald McCoy, Mario Addison, Darrell Williams, Bruce Irvin, Jarius Wright. They've got some guys like Kyle Love that are up. My big question is the Dontari Poe situation, because he's got a club option. They can keep him around. It's going to be about, his club option will be for about $6 million, which is manageable. I wouldn't be surprised if they keep him, and then it's basically, okay, do you go with an edge rusher or an offensive tackle? And at this point, it was either Epinesa or Wills from Alabama. And I went ahead and I went with the edge rusher just because of how many holes you need on that. Like, how many holes there are on that defense. And also losing Luke Kuechly, that's huge. Didn't expect him to retire when he did, but he did retire. And now you got to fill yet another hole, a leader hole on that defensive side. Let's move on to the Cardinals. And the big thing I wanted to talk about with the Cardinals, so Wills is rising. 2.0. Andrew Thomas was the number one ranked offensive tackle. Now it's Jedrick Wills, offensive tackle from Alabama. My question with the Cardinals is simple. If you are the GM of the Cardinals, are you going offensive tackle in Wills? Or are you going to go with a wide receiver, which would most likely be Jerry Jeudy? What do you do? Protect Kyler Murray? Or don't protect Kyler Murray, but give him a weapon? The weapon, actually, it wouldn't be Jerry Jeudy. The one that I've seen thrown out there is them taking CeeDee Lamb, because CeeDee Lamb and Kyler Murray already have a connection. So if you're the Cardinals, protect Kyler Murray, give Kyler Murray a weapon. What do you do?
I am definitely protecting him. Yeah, I'm going with an offensive tackle.
That's what I did.
And I hate to be boring and not say, give him the weapon. But I think it's got to be I think it's got to be the offensive tackle because I think we saw this year that Kyler Murray is a good quarterback. He's a good talent. He obviously won Offensive Rookie of the Year for a reason. You said it was a surprise to you. Not a surprise to me, but he's good. So when you have something good and you know that, you know his style, you know he wants to be able to be back there and be able to run around and, you know, all that type of stuff, you have to then do whatever you can to make sure that you protect them as best as you can. That is extremely important. That's what's going to have to happen here. While getting another weapon is great, you can do that later on. What has to happen right now is another offensive lineman, you know, somebody who can help to protect him for sure. And I think that in going with Jedrick Wills, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's a good move. It's a safe move, but it's a good move. And the Cardinals, too many times, again, I'm not sure on the stats of how many times he was sacked this past year, but it was probably more than they would have liked. Sacked, hurried, that type of stuff. I think that you want to definitely limit that because you have Larry Fitzgerald coming back. You have Christian Kirk.
He was sacked 48 times.
Many times. I think Drew Brees was sacked 7.
Yeah.
You have Andy Isabella.
7?
So you have a lot of talent there, which you can add on to and you will add on to, but definitely got to keep your quarterback protected.
Yeah, there were only 3 quarterbacks that were sacked more than Kyler Murray. And actually, that's weird. Kyler Murray was actually sacked 48 times. His personal page lied. He was tied for the most sacked quarterback in the league. Can you name the other 2 quarterbacks that were sacked the same amount as Kyler Murray? I'll give you a hint. They're both in the NFC.
Matt Stafford.
No, Matt Stafford.
I know he didn't even play the full 16 games, but
he was sacked 17 times, 18 times.
18 times, yeah. So
3 games.
Let's see.
One of these teams made the playoffs, one didn't. The mascots are both of avian descent, meaning they're both birds.
I would say that didn't help. One made the playoffs, one didn't. I can't think of it. Just tell me.
Matt Ryan and Russell Wilson.
I wanted to say him, but I didn't think that was right.
When you said, it hit, I'm like, he's going to say Russell Wilson, and then you didn't. So Russell Wilson and Matt Ryan, along with Kyler Murray, had 48, and then at 47, right behind him, is who we just talked about. Crab legs. Jameis Winston.
47 sacks and 30 interceptions. The season doesn't get better than that.
But, like, my thought process with the Cardinals, just really quick, I went offensive tackle because, like you mentioned, they've got 7 picks. You can get a wide receiver later in the draft if you want one. You don't have to go with a Jerry Jeudy or a CeeDee Lamb so early. Let's finish out the top 10. Jaguars, to me, the big question, and I know they've got the second pick in the first round at 20 via the Rams. 2 picks I have for them, Derek Brown, and then also Josh Jones, the offensive tackle from Houston. I have them going with later. My main question for you, and this is why I had them go with Derek Brown. Marcel Darius has a club option. And the big thing that many people are talking about is they've said that, so Dave Caldwell, who is running the show in Jacksonville, has said that re-signing edge rusher Yandrick Nakui, I hope I said that right, is his top priority. However, they got to cut somebody because Jacksonville's already over their 2020 salary cap. So if they want to sign their guy or re-sign their guy, they have to cut somebody. They have a free agent, a club option right now for Marcel Darius, who let's see how much he would be making if they put this player up through. He was making $14 million. Oh, I'm sorry. He'd be making $9.5 million this upcoming year. Do you think it's a high probability that they say, we're not going to pay that because we want to pay this other guy? And should defense be the focus for the Jaguars here with their first-round pick? Or their top 10 pick, I should say.
Defense absolutely needs to be the focus for the Jaguars. We saw what they did this past year. There were so many teams that were scoring on them. I think they definitely have to do that. Who was it? Yannick Ngakoue.
That's who I fucked up his name.
Yeah, so I was like, you were talking about somebody that I didn't know, but because you can.
I screwed up his name. I make the English language bend to my will. You said it correctly.
I think I said it right.
That's their top priority.
I was going to say, you were saying somebody, and then I'm like, I don't know who he's talking about. But
to cut you off really quick, Jake was doing that in Discord, by the way. He was going through like old NBA drafts, finding the weirdest names ever and going, hey, Ricky, say this one. Hey, Ricky, I want to hear how you say this name.
Like, no, you don't.
He's like, you should just get on Twitch and read names to people.
That would be entertaining.
But go ahead.
Yeah, so he's definitely their top priority. At one point, I didn't think, because I think he had put out a tweet at the end of the season that made it seem like he was not coming back to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
But I believe, like you said, that is their top priority.
Yeah.
I think that there's a good chance they could re-sign him, but then going and getting another defender, another guy for the defensive side, that would be big for Jacksonville. They absolutely have to get that defense right. Offense, it seems like it's coming together, but
they just got to protect Gardner.
They've got such a question there, though, because they are paying Foles a lot of money. What do you do?
Prediction time from The Athletic. I don't know if you saw this. The Athletic predicted that the Bears are going to trade for Nick Foles.
Okay, well, don't.
So that would solve all their problems if they just traded Nick Foles away to a team.
It would. But I like Gardner Minshew. I think it's seeing what Gardner did this past year and then seeing what Foles was unable to do when he came back. Minshew almost seems like the guy. He just brings a lot of excitement. He can do a lot more. He did do a lot more. I don't know. That's how I look at it.
And then the last pick of the top 10, I don't think this one needs a lot to, like, I feel bad because Brown fans are probably like, yes, they're finally going to talk about our team. But then it's like, it's the easiest pick in the book. Whoever the best offensive tackle is, you take them. Whether that's Tristan Wirfs, whether that's you got Becton from Louisville, whether that's Andrew Thomas. If there's a run on offensive tackles in the top 10, like, you just take the best one. You protect Baker Mayfield, and then you move on. The thing I will say that I like about Wirfs, that I'll say to round out the top 10 discussion, is I mentioned it earlier, his versatility, where he was the only, I think he's the only true freshman to start at tackle for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And he's played left tackle for them. He shifted over to right tackle this year when their right tackle got injured. He's also played at right guard. So, like, he's a guy that can play either tackle position. He can slide into that guard position if you need him to. If I'm the Browns, that's who I go with. Because it's like, I don't know exactly where I'm going to put him, but I can put him anywhere, basically, except for center. I just can't have him snap the ball. But, like, that's the pick for the Browns. You just got to protect Baker Mayfield. And then hope that you guys win the division or get a wild card spot, because I don't know if you're going to win the division with how good the Ravens looked this year in the regular season.
Yeah.
But do you have anything about the Browns, or are you same with me, just draft an offensive tackle?
I don't know if I'm the same with you. I'm in the don't care category.
Brandon's like, I don't care about the Browns. But let's move forward. Before I do, for our YouTube family out there that's watching this a week later, because we've got NBA mock draft this week on YouTube. Next week is this one that they will see. Patreon.com/MostValuable Podcast. If you want to support us, make sure to check us out there. We have a wonderful group of patrons that we thanked at the beginning of the show. Demon King, who is in chat, is one of them. Thank you, Demon King, for watching us on Twitch.